أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم ينفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ينفعنا وزدنا علما يا كريم يا رب العالمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah ta'ala, all you guys are doing well. Alhamdulillah, we're in our ninth week or ninth class. And on the flyer said we'll be done in 10. You guys all know we're not going to be done in 10. So, like I said, my goal is to finish before Ramadan, inshallah ta'ala, which I believe we shall do so. I just wanted to let you know that next week we'll have class. And then 2 weeks from now, I believe that's the 22nd, I will be in Chicago, inshallah ta'ala, for Imam's conference there. So we won't have a class at that Sunday, so 2 weeks from now. So if you want to plan your Sunday differently, then go ahead, inshallah ta'ala. All right. I'm glad you guys changed your clocks. If you see any people walking an hour late, you know what happened to them. So we just all look at them funny. Anyhow. So alhamdulillah, last week we talked about the Battle of Badr. We didn't really finish it. We were like towards the end of it. And we didn't really go over some of the final lessons. But anyhow, we talked about the majority of it. So I want to go over a quick review. First, we talked about the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was going out to try to capture the caravan of Abu Sufyan, of Quraysh, right? It wasn't really like a battle. He wanted to go out and try to capture the caravan, and then what? The Meccans sent an army to come and try to protect the caravan. And the Prophet ﷺ got stuck out there in the middle of the desert. They couldn't go back to Medina in time, so they were just, hey, army's coming, we have nowhere to go, we have to take them on. So it wasn't like really a planned battle, where like one side gets ready and the other side gets ready, and they go. The Prophet ﷺ was stuck in this situation, and we all know that, alhamdulillah, they won the battle. And one thing that was very unique in the battle, we had special beings that participated in the battle. What are those special beings? Not aliens, but angels. Very good, right? So angels, malaika, came down and supported the Muslims in that. And obviously they were outnumbered 3-1, right? Or 1-3, however you want to look at it. And so one thing is to understand that almost all the battles that we're going to talk about in the Prophet ﷺ's life that he participated in, the majority of them, the vast majority of them, with the exception of one, I would say, is that the Muslims were a minority. They were outnumbered, right? And they were always outnumbered in the battle. And so the thing is not always about your numbers, it's about what's in the heart and your iman. We talked about the Quraysh. When they're fighting for what? They're fighting for just their money. They wanted their money from the caravan, right? It's materialistic, right? But other people, the Muslims are fighting for Jannah, right? For Allah's deen. They believe this is true, right? And I want to make an exact analogy with our army here in America or any other country. When they go out and fight, there's something called a GI Bill. You guys know what a GI Bill is? So basically the government will give you a lot of money if you join the army or the Air Force, right? They'll pay for your college funds. There's a lot of incentives. You're supposed to get benefits after you come back. A lot of times they don't give you the benefits, but anyhow. And so this was the case, right? Almost in today. Like a lot of people are going fighting in our own army, but obviously what are they really fighting for? Hopefully they're fighting to defend the land and defend justice. Whether that's true or not, that's another issue. But here we see the Muslims obviously are fighting for something much differently. And that's why they were, alhamdulillah, victorious. And a lot of the Quraysh, they just left the battlefield when they know that they were losing. Right? And so we talked about some incidents that we want to talk about that happened and that we didn't go over last week. I remember they had a lot of prisoners of war. This is something the Muslims never faced before. They never had prisoners. There were maybe prisoners beforehand or subject to, persecution and so forth. So they had prisoners and they didn't know what to do with them. So it was a new phenomenon. So the Prophet ﷺ asked Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, and Umar, the his two esteemed companions, what should they do with these prisoners? And it was mentioned they had around 70 of them. So Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said, you know what, why don't we ransom them? We'll keep them and tell their family members to pay X amount of money and then we'll give them away. Or we'll keep them and they'll have to teach our own Muslims how to read and write. That's one thing they focus on, education, if you think about the wisdom of the Prophet ﷺ, how important that was. And once they teach X amount of people how to read and write, then we'll let them free. Umar radiallahu anh was of the different opinion, and he said, kill them, for they're the leaders of the disbelievers. Right? Umar, you'll see very much in his lifetime during the Prophet ﷺ, he's more of that other extreme of the spectrum. Just like, chop off their head, let's kill them. Abu Bakr is more like, no, let's see what we could do. It'll be very, very interesting, inshallah. I don't know if we'll get time. I'm thinking about doing the life of Abu Bakr after this and going to Umar after this also. That's another 30 weeks or something. We'll see. You'll see that when the Abu Bakr is the Khalifa after the Prophet ﷺ, it's quite opposite. Abu Bakr is very stern. And Umar radiallahu anhu comes and Abu Bakr, calm down. Right? We're not going to go to war. Right? And you see it's very opposite. And you need those type of people in your balance to have a balanced state of mind and so forth. So these are the two suggestions that come. The Prophet ﷺ picks Abu Bakr's suggestion that, we're going to take them and we're going to ransom them, right? X amount of money, it'll help the Muslims, it'll help, because they're quite poor, right? They just moved to Medina. So it'll help them establish their state and, and we'll go from there. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remember surah that talks mostly about the battle of Badr is Surah Anfal, chapter number 8. That should be etched in your head, inshallah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrects the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam here, where it says, it is not befitting for a prophet that should have prisoners of war until he hath thoroughly subdued the land, like conquered the land strongly. Ye look for the temporal goods of this world, you look for money and materialistic wealth, but Allah desires for you the hereafter, right? What's in the hereafter? And Allah is exalted in might. So here is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrects the Prophet ﷺ that you should have killed the prisoners, right? You should have and killed them off, you shouldn't have ransomed them. Right? And that should have been the situation here. A lot of us are saying, hold on, hey, that sounds kind of evil and mean. First of all, it's war, right? You guys know the song, What's War Good For? Absolutely nothing. We shouldn't know that song, but anyhow, right? But anyhow, so the thing is that's what it is. It's not a bed of roses. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be mean. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrects the Prophet. Now, this is not a sin of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He had two options and he picked the one that was least correct. That's how we understand it. That's how we say it. Not like the Prophet was sinful for this, right? So Allah subhanahu corrects them and said, no, you should have killed the prisoners. We're going to see later on, I'm going to jump, I'm trying to make a lesson here. When we go into the 8th year of the Prophet's life, they go and they conquer Mecca. The Muslims come into Mecca and they conquer all of Mecca and they have a lot of prisoners. They took over the whole town. So all these Meccans, all these Quraysh that worship idols are all there. The Prophet ﷺ and the Muslim army takes over the whole city and they have them at his might. The Prophet could do anything with them, kill them, do whatever they want, right? And these are people that really give the Prophet a hard time. But you'll see in that instance, the Prophet ﷺ says, you know what? La tathrib al-yawm. He says, there's no blame on you today, you guys are all free. He lets the whole city free, except for a couple individuals, and we'll go over that when we get to the 8th year. He lets them all free. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not send this verse down and say, or another verse saying that, hey, didn't you see the lesson in the Battle of Badr? You wasn't supposed to let them free. You wasn't supposed to ransom them. You should have killed them off, right? But Allah doesn't correct the Prophet ﷺ here. Allah agrees with that. I said, yes, they go away free. What is the difference between the two? You have to really get, I know it's 9:45 really, right, in the morning. But why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala correct the Prophet ﷺ in this instant? But when he let them go in Mecca, when he conquered the city, he was fine with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't correct the Prophet when he let them all go free. What is the difference here between the two?
So Muslims are much weaker position. They don't have the control on the land. And after these people are released, they will go back and fight with Muslims again.
Very good. So he's saying that the Muslims don't have much power in the land. So if they let them go, most likely that they will come back and beat them, kill them off, if you will. Okay, that's a good point. Any other points? Everyone saying? No? Sisters? No. No one else? Taimur? I know you're a deep thinker. Someone else. Victor? No, alhamdulillah. Mustafa? So I don't know the sisters' names. I'm just going to call you sister one, sister two. Thing one, thing two, right? Huda?
Okay, I remember we went over it in Al-Maghrib, but why exactly didn't they have control over the land?
Control? Oh, the Muslims just had a state in Medina, just started, 2 years old, right? Very small to extent. So here's a very good point that Brother Tyler is bringing up is that the Muslims are not strong yet. So if you let them go, you look kind of weak. Oh, we'll fight the Muslims, but they're so peaceful and so much mercy. They'll just let you go, don't worry. These guys are like very soft-hearted people. You can take advantage of them, right? And you might know some people like that, your friends or your family members. Everything like, alhamdulillah, no, it's okay. You stole my wallet, mashallah, it's okay. Allah will give you back, right? And yeah, alhamdulillah, Allah will give you back, Yani, but there has to be some type of justice, right? And so here Allah says, since this is the first war you guys started, you have to make a statement. right? And first of all, it's war. It's not like these are innocent individuals. It's not like they captured them and some people were just walking on the street. No, these are warriors in a battle, right? They were actually fighting against the Muslims. So now you may have to make your statement now, right? Don't show that you're weak, right? You don't need material wealth. That's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says we don't want for the good for, you might want the good of this world, but we want the hereafter. So here that is that to kill them off, and what? To make that, to show that you have strength, you have izzah, you have honor, right? You're not soft. Later on, when we go in Mecca, the Prophet ﷺ lets them all go. Why? Because who has the power now? The Prophet ﷺ owns a whole city. Not owns, but he controls the whole city. So now it looks like almost unjust that he goes and just, hurts them while the Muslim army is so big at that time, right? So it's a much different state here. So this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala corrects them here. War, if me and you don't deal with war every day, we're not in part of the military, we don't take military, strategics and how to run an army and how do you fight. That's not our field. So this might not click with everybody. But this is a point of strategy of war at this time, the killing of the prisoners, even though how gruesome it might seem, like I said, but these are people who are fighting against Muslim, was the better option. You see the Prophet ﷺ still keeps them, they don't kill them, they keep them, they ransom off because the decision was already made. And but the next time you'll see it will be a lot different story, if you will. Okay? Very interesting story about these prisoners of war. We have Zainab, the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ. She was one of the only ones that didn't make migration from Mecca to Medina because her husband was a disbeliever. Right? Imagine that you're a prophet and your own daughter married to someone who's a disbeliever. Are you talking about family problems, right? It wasn't bed of roses for the Prophet ﷺ. And if you look at all the prophets, almost all to extent, Ibrahim alayhi salam, right? Ayub alayhi salam, Yusuf alayhi salam, all of them had major family issues. Their brothers hated them, their dad hated them, right? So many different things. Lut alayhi salam, his own wife, sided with the disbelievers and left her husband, and she got killed, right, in the punishment. So you see that in all of us here, without you guys all know it was your family relations. So inshallah, everyone has great family relations, and everyone's hummed out at peace, and everyone brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles and cousins all hug and kiss, and it's a great time. But we all know that there's challenges, right? There's one uncle that just doesn't want to get along with everybody. There's one auntie, that's the way she is. Right? That's my mom. My mom's just like that. That's my mom. I love her, but that's just the way she is, right? You just don't disagree with her ever, right? And you have to kind of work together. The Prophet ﷺ, his own daughter, alhamdulillah, she's Muslim, but his son-in-law is a disbeliever, right? And still married. Remember, these marriages happened before Islam, right? Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. A lot of these marriages happened before Islam, so when Islam came, it was like, what are you going to do? And some of them, we talked about Abu Lahab or Abu Jahl, I'm forgetting now, sons were married to some of the the Prophet's daughters, and they purposely divorced them to kind of made them look like disgrace, but actually it was a better thing anyhow. So Zainab, anha, the daughter of the Prophet, her husband is taken as one of the prisoners. She takes out her necklace as a ransom. Here, take this, it's worth X amount of money. Can I have my husband back, right? And so the Muslims receive that and then end up giving the next back to the Prophet's daughter because that's Prophet's daughter. You don't want to own something of the Prophet's daughter. But with the situation or with the agreement that he allows her to migrate to Medina, or both of them migrate to Medina. And I believe he became Muslim after, actually. I didn't look into that, but I was assumed that would be the story. But I'll try to follow up that inshallah ta'ala. But I wanted to show that the Prophet's family, household, even though there's people trying to kill him, his own family there's issues going on with his house and how he has to take care of that. We have, after the battle, we have this person named Umair ibn Wahab. Now he is part of the Quraysh. He's sitting in Mecca and they're thinking about how they lost so much of their leaders. Abu Jahl is dead. This person is dead. My family member is dead, right? Look what the Muslims did to us. It's such a big disgrace that they lost to a small group that was just trying to get a caravan, 300 people. And so he's sitting there with another person and saying, I want to kill the Prophet, right? I want to do whatever to avenge the death of our brethren, right? And so he decides, I'm going to go to the Medina, I'm going to dip my sword in some poison, and then if I get a chance, I'm just going to have to, shove it into him once, the poison will do what it has to do, and he's done. And so he comes up, he talks to this with his other friend, Safwan ibn Umayyah, and he says, I'm going to do this. So he goes into Medina, he comes into the city, Umar sees him and knows who he is. So that's, Omer. That's one of the worst people of the Quraysh. He calls him a dog, actually. He said, I'm not going to let him come and talk to the Prophet ﷺ. So he goes and tells the Prophet ﷺ, hey, Omer is coming. You want me to kill him? Once again, it's Omer's strategy right now. Want me to kill him? What do you want me to do with him? He said, no, let him come. Let me see what he has to say. So he goes and he says, you know what? I came here to see my son. His son was taken as prisoner of war. And he said, I'm here to make sure my son is being taken care of, and then I could see him. And the Prophet says, okay, yeah, you can go and visit him, but then why do you have that sword hanging from your neck? They said, oh, this sword? Oh, this is nothing. This didn't do anything for us in the Battle of Badr. And the Prophet said, hold on. Were you sitting with Safwan in Mecca, thinking about that, you're going to come here and try to assassinate me, and you dipped your sword in poison? He said, how did you know that? He was just stunned. And then right there, that just took him. He embraced Islam immediately. And the witness, I know you must be a prophet of Allah if you know exactly what happened. And he became Muslim right on the spot there. And they released his son, obviously, and alhamdulillah, he became Muslim. So we have these sort of incidents where you could say a miracle, right? It wasn't the parting of the sea, but you have these small instances where the Prophet ﷺ did certain things like this that was pretty obviously out of the norm. Banu Qaynuqa. Banu Qaynuqa is the next step after Badr. They're one of the three main Jewish tribes in Medina. Okay, remember the Prophet ﷺ had to deal with three main groups. That's the Quraysh, the non-Muslims in Mecca, the Jewish tribes in Medina, and then the hypocrites, obviously the Muslims too, but the hypocrites that lived in Medina. So you'll see he has to deal with all three of them. Now, tribes. Before we talk about the Jewish tribes, there's Omer in a misunderstanding that's in the media. Maybe they try to portray it for a certain reason, and I think it's a lot because of the Palestine and Israeli conflict, is that Muslims hate Jews and they want to kill off Jews, and Jews are the worst people in the world. And obviously, if you look at the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, you can maybe understand that to an extent, but I think that's isolated, if you will. And those who know about the conflict very well, the Israelis in Israel, you can call them, we like to call them Zionists more than Jews, because they're a sect of Jews, if you will, and they're not really Orthodox to an extent. A lot of Orthodox Jews are actually anti-Israel, right? And there's a small group of them, or a good amount of them, I should say, that actually speak out about the nation of Israel. But if you go to history, and I was going to make a slide of this and I forgot, is that you'll see that many times the Jews and the Muslims lived side by side with no issues. And Palestine was actually a very good case of that before the creation of the state of Israel, or the legal state of Israel. And so you'll see that if you ever look at the golden ages of the Jews, golden ages is when they prospered, they wrote a lot of books, they progressed as a community and a civilization. You'll see many times it happened under Muslim rule, or with Muslims in their area. One prime example of this is when in Spain, right? The main reason why the Muslims came to Spain, anyone know? Why did they actually came over from Morocco? Who knows their history pretty well?
Well, there was several reasons. One was, of course, kind of a conquer and spread Islam into Europe. Mm-hmm. The Umayyads, they came all the way to North Africa.
Right.
They moved into...
But why did they go to Spain? You have to cross the ocean. I mean, of course, they want to spread Islam. But one main reason. Anyone know? You had Jews living in Spain. It wasn't called Spain at that time. But they had living in Spain, and they were persecuted by Christians. And Christians didn't like Jews very much for multiple reasons. They killed their prophet, if you think about it, right? Or their God, or whoever you want to call it. But anyhow, they came down and they sent a letter down to Morocco, where the Muslims were and say, can you help us? This is what's happening there. And there's a very famous story, if you go to the history of it, that the Muslim general sent down boats over to Spain to help them. And they went over there and they actually burned their boats and said, we're not going to go back to Morocco, we're here. Tariq bin Ziyad, very good, right? Very famous character in our Islamic history. So Tariq bin Ziyad was one of the leaders of the Muslim army at that time. They came in there, they fought off the Christians and pushed them back and helped the Jews. They let them live in the land, and that's when they had one of their golden ages. I think their second golden age. I think there's like three main ones. And the Muslim lived there with the Jews right outside, no issue at all, right? Until later on, Muslims stayed there for about 800 years. Until there's a person later on that the Christians came back and they beat down the Muslims and they took over Spain, right? And that's where Christopher Columbus comes, right? 1492. That's when the Muslims lost Spain, and then Christopher Columbus comes and takes all the Muslim maps and then starts taking and heads west and he calls it India. right? And that's what we call West Indies, right? So this guy was lost. But anyhow, we think he's a great person, but I don't know why. But anyhow, so you have this instance where the Muslims lived beside the Jews for a very long time, had no issues with them at all. We're more closer to them if you think in creed than the Christians, because they obviously split up Allah into multiple parts. But the Jews didn't do that to extent, if you will.
But the saying, I mean, I always get a bit upset when I hear the Judeo-Christian culture.
Yes.
What does it mean? I mean, it's like the most...
And that's interesting. If you ever read the Bible, and you think the Quran talks about the children of Israel in a negative way, which they should because of what they did to Musa alayhi salam. But if you read the Bible, it really puts down the Jews for who they were and what they did to a much greater extent. And those who read the Bible very much will know, but it's not talked about very much. But anyhow, so there's this tribe that's in Medina, and so they're one of the only tribes that kind of lived in the vicinity of Medina. The rest of them used to live on the outskirts. I kind of mentioned that because they didn't think it was kind of like clean to live next to the pagan Arabs, right? The Jews have this thing called Gentiles, if you understand, where they see anyone other than Jews almost like a lower caste or lower percent. You deal with them different than you'll deal with a Jew, right? And further kind of in that same business, diamonds and stuff like that. And so what happens is that they start making a lot of trouble to the Muslims. Number one is because they didn't like him first and foremost, because the Prophet ﷺ was an Arab looking for someone from a Hebrew background. Number one. Number two, when after the Battle of Badr, they're like, wow, these Muslims are actually, they won. That's surprising. So now they're kind of more envious and jealous, and they want to cause more trouble to stop them from, progressing, if you will. So they used to make all these different problems with the Muslims, right? They'll go to their bazaars and they'll intimidate their women, call them names, etc. And the Prophet ﷺ had to visit them and say, hey, remember that charter? Remember they had a charter with the Jews? We talked about it a couple of weeks, that you should not harm a Muslim, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. We should live in peace together. So there's a treaty with them that they should follow. This is pretty much breaking it to extent. And then there's a famous incident where they came and they told the Prophet ﷺ, they said, don't be deluded on account of defeating some Quraysh who are inexperienced in war. Which is kind of true if you think about it. They haven't fought in a war in a very long time. But if you engage in fighting us, you will realize that we're genuine war experts. They used to make weapons. Okay. Now if somebody says that to you, what does that mean? Like they want to be your friend? You should take them out to dinner, right? Sit down, have coffee with them. It's like basically, like, we'll beat you down, right? We'll kill you, right? You don't know. If you want to fight us, bring it on, right? And so here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in Surah Anfal about them. Where Allah says, if you have reason to fear from the people betrayal, talking about the Jews, that they're going to betray that treaty that they signed with you, throw their treaty back to them. Say, hey, you broke it, now we're going to come and get you, okay? On equal terms, indeed, Allah does not like the traitors, okay? And so Allah, this verse comes down in Surah Anfal. Surah Anfal usually talks about Battle of Badr, but it's in that same context, because this happened right afterwards. And then there's also this verse in Surah Ali Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, O Muhammad, peace be upon him, those who disbelieve, you will be defeated and gathered together in hell. And the worst indeed is the place of rest. They have already been assigned for you, O Jews, in the two armies that met, in the Battle of Badr, against the Quraysh and the Muslims, right? One was fighting the cause of Allah, the other was fighting they were fighting with their disbelievers. And the believers saw the disbelievers as twice, or on their own eyes as twice their amount, even though there were 3 times. But no one says, oh man, they're 3 times bigger than us. Everyone says they're twice usually. So this still follows along what happened in the battle, right? And Allah supports His victory with whom He pleased. Verily, there's a lesson for those who understand. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again is talking to the Jews. That, you know what I mean, what happened here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will support them from what you might do in terms of breaking your treaty with them. So what happens is the very famous incident that happened is that one of the Jewish goldsmiths was, a woman was walking in their bazaar and trying to buy certain things. And so what this person did, this Jewish man, took her dress and pinned it to the back where it kind of showed and revealed her legs and so forth. And I believe she ended up falling or something like that. And there was a Muslim man that was there and saw what they did to this Muslim woman. So what did he do? Did he stand by and say, oh, well, no. He wants to defend his sister in Islam. So he goes and ends up fighting this man and ends up killing him. Okay? And then what happens, it always escalates, right? A bunch of Jews see what happened and they end up killing him. And then this news came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then the Prophet came and said, hey, well, you killed one of our men from what you did to this woman. You broke the treaty, right? Because you persecuted her and you've obviously shamed her, and that's enough to break that treaty. One woman broke the treaty. Of course, there was other things that led to them, their statement that we will beat you in war and so forth. But that was like the straw of hay that broke the camel's back, if you will. And that was enough for the Prophet ﷺ to go to war with them. And he laid siege with them in their fortresses. They used to have these fortresses that I mentioned before last week, kind of like a fence around their area where they used to live, like a gated community, if you will. And they stayed in it. They closed the door and they stayed in it. And the Prophet ﷺ laid there surrounded their fortress for about 2 weeks, 15 days. Remember their statement what they told the Prophet ﷺ before? If you fight us, you'll experience true fighting. They never came out. They stood there quietly. Even though they have weapons, they didn't say anything. Right? Because the Muslims have them surrounded. They can't go out and get any water, can't buy any groceries. They're stuck in there. They don't want to come out, even though they're a bunch of talk, at least from so forth. Abdullah ibn Ubay, I told him, really remember this guy here, right? The leader of the hypocrites. He says he's Muslim, but he's working against Islam. So he goes and told the Prophet ﷺ, he's like, hey, these are my friends. We used to live with them in Medina for so long, or Yathrib, right? Let them go. The Prophet ﷺ hears him, understands it. It says, okay, I'll do so, right? He knows that he's kind of hypocritical, but he's still new to Islam, so the Prophet takes his word for it. That we lived for so long, we knew them to be so good, they made one mistake, okay, just let them go, etc. The Prophet ﷺ gave in and said, no, you guys are evicted from Medina. Like, you have to get out. Okay, because look what you're doing, you're causing corruption, you're making these statements. And they agreed, they knew what they're doing. You never see any statement where they said, this is not fair, give us one more chance. They knew very well what they were doing. So they were evicted, and they're with the agreement that they leave all their household supplies and utensils and the weaponry. They leave it all, and they just go out, take your camels, take your animals, take yourselves, and you have to leave Medina. So they were the first tribe that left, and they got evicted. They never fought, but they left, and they went to some place in Syria, and wasn't really known what happened to them. Now there's only 2 more Jewish tribes left in Medina now, right? And they were the first one that got kicked out because of this action. So it really wasn't a war. It was more broken of the treaty. Of course, Muslims came and they surrounded their forts, but they never fought. So they were the first ones to go there, right? And you see, because of that, if you break, that's why I said that treaty was so important, because if you break it, then what? Then you should be evicted. Today, the state of Israel, obviously, is breaking treaties and agreements left and right, but no one does anything. They actually are building houses on the Palestinian land called illegal settlements, if you guys know anything about that. But the UN said, this is wrong, and then Trump said, it's okay. It's fine, let them have their houses, right? And so this is something that's going on today, but there's no one to check them. The UN could say, slap their hand, and if you ever see which country leads the UN the most in breaking their amendments or their rules, is State of Israel is number 1. But they get about 2,000 or 3 million or 2 billion or $2 billion or $3 billion of our tax dollars every year for their army and for their infrastructure that comes from our pockets and other people's pockets, unfortunately. So anyhow, so this is on the injustice that's kind of going on, even from the Prophet's time in Medina. After this, one of the Jewish tribes are gone. Now that moves on to we're still in the 2nd year after the Hijrah. Abu Sufyan obviously is very mad, right? Quraysh is beat down. He's the new leader of the Quraysh now. So what he wants to do is take revenge of what happened on the day of Badr. So he says, I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to irritate the Muslims. He doesn't really want a war, but he wants to do something to them. So he gets around 200 men, goes up to Medina at nighttime, right? Sneaks into the city, talks to some of the Jewish leaders, and they tell him what's going on with the Muslims. He comes out. He goes to this small suburb out in Medina. He doesn't hit the center of Medina. And he burns the palm trees down, steals some stuff, and ends up killing 2 Muslims, and then takes off, right? Quite cowardly to do so. But we're talking about, it's kind of weird. We're talking about Abu Sufyan because he's going to become Muslim later on. So that happens to a lot of people in these battles. They hate Islam. They fight him. They want to kill him. And actually, they're like one of the best Muslim general, in 5 more years, right? It's really interesting how Allah changes our hearts, right? But he'll become Muslim later on. It's a little joke. My son's name Sufyan. So technically I'm in Arabic Abu Sufyan. So my mom heard about this. She's like, why did you pick that name for? I was like, Mom, well, there's not connection with that, me and him. But he becomes Muslim later on. And she's like, I don't, it's not good to do that. But anyhow, right? So he does this, he goes out and kills it. He kills 2 Muslims, that's pretty big, right? A woman got, her dress pulled up and embarrassed and ended up killing one man, and the Prophet lays siege to the whole Jewish army, Jewish tribe by Nuqa. Here, the 2 men are killed from Muslim men, but the Prophet doesn't go down to Mecca. Obviously, that takes much more greater effort to do so, right? The Jews are in Medina already. It's either to attack them or at least take care of them. Doesn't mean he forgets that, but you'll see later on that he will avenge those deaths later on, inshallah ta'ala. In the 3rd year now we're moving on to the 3rd year, the Quraysh doesn't know how they're going to get money. Summer's coming and they have their main caravan that's going to go out to Syria. We know last time that happened, the Prophet tried to catch that caravan, and ended up in a war, and they ended up losing. They're not going to try it again. So they said, we're going to try something else. We're going to go to Najd. Najd is central, like present-day Saudi Arabia. We'll go into the middle of Saudi Arabia and then go through Iraq and come over to Syria this way, which is a longer route. Okay, but they have no other way to go and get to do any type of trade with Syria. So the Prophet ﷺ hears that the caravan's going out once again, right? And of course, the Muslims, and at that time, everyone have scouts that's out there, and that's all they do. They come back into Medina and say, hey, this is happening, this is happening. And so the Prophet gets 100 horsemen under the leadership of Zayd bin Haritha, radiallahu anh, and they go out and they try to catch the caravan. Alhamdulillah, this time they do. And it was carrying around 100,000 dirhams. That's a lot of money, once again. They catch it, they capture it, right? And then they take all of it. Once again, they stop it. Cries in Mecca happens that, what, these Muslims, we don't know what to do with them. Because we can't get around them. We're going to die, or we're going to run out of finances, and we have to do something else. And that leads to the Battle of Uhud, right? The next major battle the Muslims will participate in. So the Quraysh starts putting an army to fight the Muslims now. They gather some other tribes in the vicinity, try to build up a stronger army now. And they get around 3,000 people. 3,000 people to go and to fight the Muslims. Last time was how many? You guys remember? 1,000, right? So it's 3 times. That's a big number. And they decided all the money that was used in that caravan that Abu Sufyan escaped, the Prophet ﷺ, remember that one? That had a lot of money in it. All that money that was there, I guess they kept it in a safe, or I don't know how it works. But we'll use a large majority of that money to finance this war against the Muslims, if you will. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals this verse in Surah Anfal. He said, verily this believers spend their wealth to hinder the men from the path of Allah, to stop Islam from growing. Soon they will continue to spend, but in the end, there will be a hasra, there will be an anguish upon them, and they will be overcome. This was a very famous verse when our government and our army went to Iraq and Afghanistan. That we were saying that how much money we're spending, and that's going to end up hurting our economy. I think I was just reading an article right before class. $2 trillion was spent on Afghanistan and the Iraq war.
4 trillion in Iraq, 2 trillion.
Oh, okay, there you go. Then, yeah. 6 trillion. I don't even know how many zeros you want to put at the end of that. It's crazy. And then there's interest, obviously, tacked on, right? Like 6 trillion or whatever, 2 to 6, let's put it that way, on a war that you could judge how much benefit that gave us, or did it stop certain things? Now we just made an agreement with the Taliban back again. I thought I almost fell over when I read that. I was like, hold on, I thought that we'd never negotiate with them, right? They're so backwards, and I see these guys with a bunch of turbans, and everyone's like signing papers again. I don't know. Maybe because the Russians are going to invade. I have no idea. But anyhow, so it's interesting, right? And obviously our economy has suffered for that, and we know how much debt we're in. I never understood this whole debt thing. I don't know why, but we're in so much debt, but our country's still running. I don't know how that works, but I never understood it, right? I don't know if you could understand it. We'll sit down with me one of these days. But here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that will be what? I'll be hasad, I'll be anguish against them, and then you'll see that will happen to the Quraysh and the Meccan society, that they'll run out of money and they'll have nowhere else to go. The Meccans decided to take their women along, right? If you take your woman along, guess what? You're probably going to fight a little bit more. Because if you lose, then you're going to lose your wife, right? And obviously, in a negative sense, they they would prompt the men to fight a little bit more, right? That's just something they would do, and kind of obviously, the men will most likely try to outnumber or do something more greater to impress a woman, right? That's just the way it works, right? So anyhow, they did that, and they, like I said, 1,000 soldiers, 700 of them were chainmail. I mean, the full armor on, which is very, very expensive to get. So they were really prepared for this. The Muslim army does not really have armory like this, right? 3,000 camels, right? 15 million march, right? All this big 3,000 soldier army coming. The leader was Abu Sufyan, and he had Khalid ibn Walid. If you don't know his name, you have to know his name, all right? Khalid ibn Walid was a general that any war he touched, he won. He could blink his eye and fight blindfolded, and he'll probably win a war. And he was the head of the horsemen. And Iqra bil Abi Jahl, this is a son of Abu Jahl. Abu Jahl died in the Battle of Badr. Remember that? This is his son. Okay. Once again, these two, all three of them will become Muslim. Okay. Khalid ibn Ali will become one of the most amazing Muslim commander ever. And you never seen one again after him. He pretty much conquered all of Persia and Syria by himself, pretty much with his army, during the time of Umar radiallahu anh. When Umar was the second Khalifa, he was just running through lands, just taking people down, right? And then he was discharged of his leadership because everyone was putting trust in Khalid, not Allah anymore, right? They said, if Khalid's there, Alhamdulillah, we'll fight. If he's not there, then might be different issues. Ikrimah, once again, will become Muslim. The son of Abu Jahl. Remember we talked about that? How about if Trump's son ever becomes Muslim? And everyone laughed, right? You're still laughing, right? All right. He has a son, right? Does he? I think, I'm so lost. I don't even know. He has two. It's probably wise that we don't know their names because it's probably not important, honestly. But you know, this is the same thing. Abu Jahl, the one that's commanding someone to bring camel guts on the Prophet ﷺ, hits them up on his head, right? Falls behind them, making noises so that no one can hear the Prophet ﷺ like a little kid. But his son will become Muslim, right? Like I said, we just never know who will be guided. You just keep on doing your thing if you want to send the message.
When you said the greatest,
Commander.
it reminded me of Saladin.
Yeah.
So can you put them up there together? Right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to place these Muslim generals that we have. Yeah, Salahuddin, obviously, rahimahullah, is an amazing commander also. But Khalid ibn Ali, I will say, probably greater because at least at that time, going against the Persian army as the Muslims were so less, equipped. It was amazing that they were able to and then they went into Syria, which is against the Byzantine Empire.
These were the two superpowers.
Yeah, exactly, which is like taking down, I don't want to use America, but pretty much America or Russia at the same time, right? But superpower-wise, right, which is amazing for what he did. Of course, Allah's guidance, obviously, and Allah's given him that victory. Obviously, we don't trust in the people, we understand it's trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So obviously, they're coming here with their army here. Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib. He was the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but he's still in Mecca. Right? It was a little bit unknown if he was a Muslim yet or if he wasn't, but he would want to take care of his nephew. And so he would secretly send letters to Medina saying, hey, the Quraysh are coming. They have 3,000 soldiers. They're taking this much horsemen. What's going on in Mecca? So he sends a letter to the Prophet ﷺ. The Prophet ﷺ is in Kuba. You guys all know that. The first masjid built, right? He is there. And he gets that letter. First of all, the Prophet ﷺ doesn't read, right? Doesn't know how to read. So he has one of the other Sahabi read the letter to him. And he gets note that the Quraysh already left with 3,000 soldiers, right? Like the lights are flashing now. Like getting ready, okay? Obviously it takes X amount of days for them to come, but they're already left already. By the time that letter comes, it's already been about half a week, maybe a week already, or 5 days. So, I mean, they're almost halfway there. So the Prophet starts scrambling now, right? He goes back to Medina. He conveys a meeting with the Ansar and the Muhajirun, two groups of Muslims, right? One from Mecca, one from Medina, and tells them what's going on, what we should do. So the whole Medina was put on alert. Men started surrounding the area and making sure to see if they're going to come from this way, come from that way. Any streets that come into Medina, there's guards there waiting because they don't know where they're at, right? It's a state of anxiety, state of panic. We don't know where the army is coming from. A group of the helpers of the Ansar started guarding the Prophet ﷺ at his door because they don't know if they're going to come at night, what's going to happen, right? So obviously you see the panic that they're they're in right now. The Quraysh finally come. They come close to the mountain of Uhud. Those who have been to Medina, if you look north, there's a large mountain there. It takes about 5 minutes to drive there. It's very, very close. Okay, it's not one mountain, but the mountain range is called Uhud, which is large mountains, if you will. And this is where they came close, and they started settling close to there. Right, and this was on Al-Jum'ah in the morning on the 6th of Shawwal, right after Ramadan. This is the second Ramadan for the Muslims now. Last Ramadan they were fighting in the Battle of Badr. Second year they get to celebrate, but there's a war happening 6 days after Eid. Right, the life in Medina is very different. We're going to have our Eid celebration the following week, and the next week there's nothing that's going on like that. Right, you celebrate on Eid day, and then it's back to, alert status, if you will. The Prophet ﷺ holds together this consultation and gets all the people together, tries to find out, what do you think we should do? But he tells them of a dream he has, right? Very interesting dream. He tells them, I had a dream where in my dream I saw that there was cows being slaughtered, okay? And that there was a groove in my sword. Basically, you have a sword, but there's a dent in the top of it, okay? It got dented in. You can't really do much with a sword that's dented in the top. Okay, and that there was an army that in my hand I had an armor that was immune, that basically nothing could get through it. So he saw these 3 signs, kind of like Yusuf salam and the dream that he saw with the king at that time. So he said, he understood, understood being weak, they'd probably get slaughtered easily, that the slaughtering of the cows would be his own men, and the point in the top of his sword would be a member of his household is going to get killed, or one of his main warriors will get killed. Okay, they have a sword, it gets bent in, that means that the thing that he's using to defend with is not working. And that there will be an armor around me, and he says that's what I interpret as being Medina. So it's understood that either he told them that what this interpretation of the dream is, or he just told them the dream and that was it. And there's another narration that mentioned that he told them about the dream after the battle. So you could take it both ways. Then he offered a suggestion to his companions. Should we go out to Medina? Should we go outside the city and fight? Or should we stay inside the city? Okay. The Prophet maybe has a dream, but he's still asking who? The companions. Right? And that is something that's... do I have something here? Let me see. It's coming up. Right? And so what should we do? Should we fight outside the city, or we should stay inside the Medina? Abdullah ibn ibn Salul, remember he is the head of the hypocrites, right? He says, you know what, I think it's better that we stay inside Medina. The Prophet ﷺ, he's saying that we should stay in Medina. I think that's a great plan. Remember, he's a hypocrite, right? He's not really trying to fight for Islam. He's trying to fight for his own name or for his own prestige. But he's agreeing with the Prophet ﷺ. And he doesn't want to go out in the battlefield. Why does he not want to go out? And why does he want to stay in Medina for? Is it because he loves the Prophet? Safer. If you're in the city, you could hide at home. No one knows if you're outside. You can hide behind a wall and say you're fighting. But you're in the battlefield, everyone will see if you're standing outside by yourself and you're in the corner not fighting. Because he really doesn't want to fight. Because he doesn't care about Islam. Right? He cares about his own thing. So he's like, yeah, let's stay in Medina. That's good. I can hide behind a wall, behind a house. Nobody will know if I'm fighting or not. And I'll just walk out with my sword, put some ketchup on it, right? And I said, look what I did. Right? This is a great idea. Let's stay in Medina. Right? Some other companions say, you know what? Let's go out and fight out in the battlefield. Let's go out in the desert. It's better when 2 armies, it'd be better, to take them on, right? Not to be in the city itself. The city itself is a little bit better because you can ambush people. You can hide behind corners, you can jump off roofs. They know Medina more than the Quraysh. But it's better when 2 big armies come in a bigger clash, right, if you will. And that's how usually wars would be. So someone says, let's go out. Because they missed the Battle of Badr. Remember, the Battle of Badr was only those who came to try to capture the caravan. So a lot of people were left in Medina and never got to participate in that battle. Okay? So a lot of people wanted to participate and said, let's go out on the field. Let's go out in the desert. And so they kept on urging the Prophet ﷺ, let's do this. And there were more of the younger companions. Right? And one of them said, O Messenger of Allah, for a long time we have been looking forward for this day. We have employed a lot to make this such day draw near to us. Thanks to Allah, it is time for us to fight. So they're pushing him to fight outside the city. So then once again, they said, let's go out and fight our enemy. At least they should think that we have lost our heart and we don't dare to fight him. Because if you stay in the city, you look like you're almost weak to an extent. Like we're a little scared. If you come out and face them, they're almost like, wow, look, you are a bit stronger. So they're playing this type of pride game, okay? Even Hamza, radiallahu anh, the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, says also, yes, let's go out and fight also. I'm harping on this because this is a major decision that's being played, and you're going to see the importance of it. So the Prophet ﷺ takes consultation from everyone, right? And then decides, you know what, we're going to go out of the city and fight them out in the desert, out in the field, if you will. We're not going to stay in the city. Question is, what is the best way to make decisions? Right? Should it be just the Prophet ﷺ? He's a prophet. Why even talk anything against him? Right? Let him decide and everyone else just stay quiet. Yeah, Allah's guiding him and we'll just do whatever he wants. Or is it better to have a council of people, right? Get a good group of them, not everybody, but pick those who are experienced in war, get them to come, and what should we do? Or should we have everyone vote? What do you think is the best thing to do?
So my mom used to say, if you don't have anybody to consult with the wall. Always do the consultation.
Okay, mashallah. It's basically, you even do it if you talk to the wall, or your teddy bear or something, right? Somebody will, at least hear you. Anyone else think that?
I think there's no clear answer. It depends on the condition.
Interesting. Okay.
For everything. And sometimes if you're the leader, you go for it.
Okay, good.
Sometimes you ask people that you think are more knowledgeable than specific tasks that you want to solve. So I wouldn't say there's a clear answer.
Okay, good. One thing that we remember when in the Battle of Badr, the Prophet ﷺ set camp up before the wells, and then one of the Sahabi came to him and said, why are we doing this? Did Allah tell you to do this, or this is your own idea? He said, this is my own idea. He said, let's move in front. He took his opinion, right? So here is also what is the best way? And it's hard to know, kind of like Brother Johan's mentioning, right? Because we think about our Muslim, if you go to a presidency, let's talk about presidency, it's a little different than a war, right? Should it be one person making a decision, or a council, or let the people decide? Shura, right? Very good. Because respect to you, I know you guys are great people, mashallah. But I'll take a vote for what do you guys think that we should do with the masjid? Should we build this or should we build that? An extra room here, or build a school, or should we build a gymnasium? Let everyone vote. You say, yeah, that's great. Everyone in the masjid, because everyone's part of the masjid. But does everyone know the costs and the pro and the benefits of that? I think our last year or 4 years ago was a great, alhamdulillah, let everyone vote for presidency. But sometimes people who don't know nothing voting is also scary. Because look what happened, right? We have the laymen and those who know nothing about politics. They vote, and guess what? We have this character that's not our president. We said, well, it's fair though. Everyone gets to vote, right? That's the people should go. But maybe just a council. Those who actually know about politics and know like the voting last week. I don't know how many of you guys voted, right? But I sit there sometimes I have no idea about this amendment. I could read one thing and say yes, and I read another guy and say no. I don't know who's lying to me or who what, because one guy's going to be biased and one's going to be biased to his decision. But no one's really going to tell me the true facts. Is it going to raise taxes or not? So it's very hard to vote. I'm not saying you shouldn't vote, right? But then even greater for a president, what is he really saying? What is the healthcare policy? You really have to sit there and study, right? And if you're working every day and you're a mom or you're a dad, or you're doing this, how are you going to do it? So we see later on, I'm pointing to something else that's going to happen later on, inshallah, I'll touch on it. When the Prophet ﷺ, when he passed away, he didn't really put down who was going to be the next leader, but Abu Bakr was. And that was taken from a group of people that decided, a small group. Later on, everyone agreed to it. When Abu Bakr was passing away, he said, Omar, you're leading. No one else. No votes. Anyone else? Omar, you're leading. Okay? No one said anything about Omar because no one really wants to say anything to Omar. Omar was the next leader. When Omar passed away, he got 6 people, I believe 6 or 7. You guys go in a room, work it out amongst each other. All right? You are the 6 best leaders from his opinion. You pick it out and you let me know. And they picked out Uthman radiallahu anh. Ali radiallahu kind of, we had very different times after that, but anyhow, the people kind of pushed him to be the leader, and he didn't really want it, but he became it. So you have all different ways of how leadership is and decisions are made to extent, which is very interesting, right? And it's very important. Here the Prophet ﷺ, he's a prophet, maybe dictatorship. Let him you do what you want, Ya Rasulullah. You know exactly what's going on. But he takes consultation from everyone. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the believers in Surah Shura, right? That was the key word for today, right? What means consultation or to get people's opinion. Where it's alladhina istajabu bi rabbihim, they're those who have responded to their Lord and established prayer, and who affairs wa amrahum shura bainahum, and that their affairs is determined by consultation. The Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the believers. Those are true believers in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They establish prayer, they do all these different things, right? But one thing is that they do consultation amongst each other. They don't just take one decision and that one that's it. That one person makes the decision for the masjid or for the city or the Islamic organization, but there should be consultation. But who should that consultation be with? Everyone or a group of people? Right, so we have examples of multiple of that in the Seerah itself. But it's saying at least that should be done. As the brother was saying, even if you talk to the wall, talk to somebody, right? And if you're afraid to talk to people, that means you're probably wanting only decision to be from your own self, and you're scared from any type of criticism, which might be a problem of the heart, right? Like you're scared to talk to your wife sometimes. Should we do this? Because you know she's going to disagree with you. It's like, it's better just go buy this, and later on she'll find it's on the wall, and we won't argue anymore. I don't know, it's just there. I bought it, right? So my wife does that sometimes. Like, where did this come from? I don't remember being consulted with that. I don't think that color is right. But anyhow, right? So, but it's really important, right? Because it gives people respect for their opinion, etc. The Prophet ﷺ, remember this on a Friday, Jummah time. He goes up on the membar, gives a khutbah, and then tells people about, obviously we're about to go into war. Remain fast, so you'll be helped by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then he enters his house, puts on his armor on, puts his gear on, he's ready to go. Some of these companions start thinking now, you know what, I don't think we should have pushed the Prophet ﷺ to fight outside the city. He said he had a dream. He said he'd rather fight in the city, and then we kept on pushing him until he agreed with us, right? And so they're saying, you know what, we should go and tell him that we should go back and fight into the city. Like, your opinion was better. We're sorry. We apologize. The Prophet ﷺ comes out and says that it does not befit a prophet that once he has put on his armor, that he should take it off until Allah has decided between him and his enemy. That if I put on my armor and we're ready to go, we're about to walk out, then say, oh, you know what, let's change. Let's stay in the city now. And let's take it off and let's regroup again. Why is that such a big statement? Why won't you say big deal? Like, just change the situation. It's not an issue, right? If you think that we want to change the decision, why is it like, don't be stubborn. We won't tell the Prophet don't be stubborn, but say, don't be like, it's okay to change. But he says that, no, once a prophet decides on this, then that's it. I already put my armor, we're ready to go, and when we're decided to go, we're going to go on. And he obviously refers to his armor. What's the big issue about that?
So there are multiple factors. One, the army will demoralize.
Mm-hmm.
And also, they know he's the leader. He has a relationship with God, and people might have second thoughts about it.
Very good, right? And especially in a war, though, now the leader takes off his armor, then everyone's ready to go. Remember, they're all excited. Oh, we're not going to go anymore, right? And it's like a family trip. Everyone's ready to go, and then we'll wait 5 more minutes. Wait 4 minutes. Everyone sits down, or a program at the masjid. People that start talking, what's going on? They're not organized. When is this program going to start, right? And so people start arguing with each other. Maybe he doesn't know what we're going to do. I don't know. Do you trust him? And the waswasa starts coming out, right? And then people start losing morale. So the Prophet said, no, if we do it, just keep on a hush. We're going. We decided, that's it. We took shura, and that's where we're going to go. And that's why there's a verse in the Quran, I'm just going to take part of it. I want to focus on the whole ayah in Surah Ali Imran, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِذَا تَوَكُّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُتَوَكِّلِينَ. That if you decide on a matter, then go ahead. Once you have determination for a matter, rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah loves those who rely on Him. That inshallah ta'ala, I'm going to choose this college. I'm going to choose this company to work with. I talked to people. I took shura, right? I looked at my compensation, etc. Inshallah, it's the best with me. I put trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm going to do it. It could work. That's the worst company ever for you. It's, oh my gosh, why did I pick this for? This manager's killing me every day. Or I picked this college. Why did I pick that college for? I should have gone to this college, right? And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that once you determine something, you do the proper shura, then just rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Doesn't mean Ben Rose is going to happen every single time. That's not how life works, right? But you put trust, and then after that you could say, you know what, maybe I should have focused on this, maybe not, etc. But we couple it with this hadith here, and then we'll end on this, where the Prophet ﷺ says, a strong believer is better and is more lovable to Allah than a weak believer. And there is good in everyone, but cherish the one that gives you benefit in the hereafter, and seek help from Allah. And do not lose heart. And if any of you, if any trouble comes to you, do not say, this is the point I want you to focus on. Do not say, if I have done that, it would have happened. This would happen, so and so would have happened. Let's say Allah did what He had ordained to do. And the word if opens the gate of shaitan. So the Prophet ﷺ, this is part of what I want you to focus on. is that if you decide and do something, right, don't go back and say, if I would have done that, if I would have done this, then this probably would have happened, right? Or if opens up the door of shaitan. And this is a great lesson for a lot of spouses out there, right? Where you say, I told you we shouldn't have gone to this restaurant, right? So even sleeping at a restaurant will cause an argument, honestly, right? I told you you shouldn't take this freeway. I told you to check your Waze. I showed you to take Google's map, and you didn't want to listen. Now we're stuck in an hour of traffic, right? And so here's that, what happens, he said that opens up the gate of shaitan. What does it mean if opens up the gate of shaitan? What is the Prophet alluding to? Sorry? What's a little bit deeper? What does that cause? Well, I don't think of disbelieving after Islam. I told you you should take the 91. I'm not a Muslim anymore. So it's not a Muslim anymore. I can't believe this religion has not guided me to the right freeway. No, that not disbelief, but a little bit less than that. But what does it cause? What? Arguing and, right, your morale to go down. People start blaming each other, right, etc. People are doubting faith in that leader or that person, right? And so here, but is it sometimes good to say, if I would have done this, it probably would have been better?
So we should be forward-looking people, positive people, and there is a term that grow or die, which means that you always look forward. And regrets, yeah, we can learn from the experiences, but regret is not going to change the past.
Right. So it's good to say if I got ready for this appointment earlier, I would have been on time. So maybe I should take a shower 1 hour earlier. Maybe that's good. Right? So you should learn from our mistakes. Everyone agrees to learning from your mistakes. But when it leads to argument and you start blaming people, or somebody you blame yourself, like, man, if I would have done this, man, that would have been better. And you get down on yourself and you get depressed sometimes. Like I always make the worst decisions, right? And I don't know why this always happens to me. And so if you do that, sometimes you just have to say, no, that's a qadr of Allah. I took the opinions of everyone. I researched this, I did it, but it just didn't work out. And that's okay. That's why the Prophet says, qadr Allah ma sha fa'al. That is just the qadr of Allah, right? My dad had this sickness. We went to this hospital. Why did we pick that doctor for? He suggested surgery, and guess what? That's what brought him down.
Takes your mental focus away. Like they were going to war. They shouldn't be like
Exactly. That's the last thing in war. You're about to get, you don't want everyone to be on the same page. The hearts are ready. Or else people are like, I don't know, we should fight. I'm out of here, right? That's the last thing you want, right? But this happens to a lot of people where they doubt, should I gone to this doctor? Should I got this surgery done? Look what happened now, right? Just say, alhamdulillah, we made a decision. We've gone there. And he's a doctor. He's supposed to know what he's supposed to do. And that's the decision they came with. And that's a qadr of Allah. If Allah would have made him successful in the surgery, maybe he didn't, right? And that's it. We don't question Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't question other people, right? You always say maybe this doctor was better. Okay, but at least we did our due diligence, as they say, right? So there's a big lesson in this here before we get into the Battle of Uhud that, watch out for those type of things. So that opens it on where he loves doing, brings in this schism between us and other people. You start doubting yourself and so forth. There's a fine line before it, but alhamdulillah, it's one of the main lessons there. So I think that's as much. I didn't want to start the battle because I know I wouldn't get through it, even though we had 5 minutes, and then we'll be like right in the middle of the battle, and we wouldn't be able to go over it in its entirety. So inshallah, next week we'll go over that. I'll take anyone have any questions or anything before we wrap up?
Abu Sufyan became a Muslim, he was a pious Muslim, but before he died, he actually went blind. Do we know how he went blind?
I didn't know if he went blind. I know he was one of the ones in the army that would encourage. He was sent army to encourage the soldiers. He would hype them up, pretty much. He'll go in front of the battle until they were about to go to war and hype them up, and that was one of his main jobs during the time of Abu Bakr and Umar. But I don't know exactly how he died in terms of if that was a punishment or anything like this. It's interesting you bring up that concept. You will see this person named Wahshi. Wahshi is the individual that ends up killing the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ. We're going in the same battle. Hamza, he later on becomes Muslim. But one thing is that he had this, it's mentioned that he had this alcohol problem throughout his whole life, even though he was Muslim. And so some people said that even though you killed the Prophet's uncle in this major battle and he became Muslim, it was almost like, some people say that type of not punishment for him, or etc., even afterwards. Because we know that once you become Muslim, alhamdulillah, your sins are gone, and we believe in that, and you have a new life. But so I don't know if you're trying to allude that maybe his sight was taken away because of his previous life. Is that what you're trying to allude to? Or is that what
No, I mean, it's almost like, you have Islam and he and you purify it even further. So,
Yeah.
so to me, if you went blind, that was a way of Allah showing that, we've purified you.
That's true. We know that every prick of a thorn is expiation of sins, right? And rather that you lose your sins in this world before the next world. It's a much harder process in the next world. So maybe that's one way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is purifying him. Even like we said, once you become Muslim, your slate is kind of gone from all your sins from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So Prophet never wanted to see Washi in his life.
Yeah.
But the Washi at the end killed the false Messiah. He actually compensated killing Hamza
Yeah.
by killing the false Messiah.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. Later on during Abu Bakr's life.
So there's this whole idea that if you show sabr, Allah will send 5,000 angels.
If you show patience, Allah will send down 5,000 angels upon you.
Yeah, he used that in Badr and Uhud. Why did we lose Uhud when we got 5,000 angels?
Okay, first of all, I don't know if it was 5,000, and then it's not. I don't believe. Okay, well, that's terms of the Battle of Badr, right? So it's not necessarily a guarantee that's going to happen in every battle, right? And that's one of the main lessons we're going to see, even though we haven't started the battle yet, is the Muslims have trouble because one of the lessons is not to rely on these malaika that's going to come down every single time, right? But for you to make preparations and you also fight with your due diligence, etc. And I think we're going to see one of the main lessons of that is that the Muslims want to start gathering some of the spoils of war, and they forget to follow the commandment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I mean the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it's not always a guarantee angels are going to come. That was a special thing at that time. And we're going to see that, like I mentioned last week, it only happens in one other battle. The angels participate in it, but we don't see it in every battle. So there. So in that context, is only speaking about the Battle of Badr. Yeah. Anyone else? Good. Another one or no? Just scratching your face. Alhamdulillah. All right, inshallah ta'ala, next week we'll go and we'll start with the Battle of Uhud, and then we'll go on from there, inshallah ta'ala. At the end, we make dua. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Ya Kareem, Ya Rabbil Alameen, sending peace and blessing on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and his followers until the day of judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive us for our wrongdoings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, make this class a proof for us in Yawm al-Qiyamah and not a proof against us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, help us learn the lessons from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's life and implement it in our life, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Barakallahu feek. May Allah bless you guys. We'll see you next week.